And we are live. Welcome back to On the King's Dime, our post-regular season review. We're finally here. Gonna have some fun, kitted out in a sweet outfit. You know, it's awards night, suit and tie. Andy's bringing back the biff, so it's all good.
Bring back the biff.
Yeah, we're going to be going through our season review, starting with the team. Obviously, we're going to have a little bit chat about the team. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBL just to start with. The NBL, the FIBA getting absolutely just mauled by the Tall Blacks. Play crab teams, get crab results.
Yeah, that has to be the worst Boomers team we've ever fielded, though. It was terrible.
It has some young guys where I'm like, let them play. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but it had some old guys where I'm like, no, they
Don't
should
let
not
them
be.
play.
Don't let them play. Yeah, just it wasn't a bad performance. I mean, the Kiwis just kind of got hot, and they're coming off like a good season where they've played in teams that have progressed well, and so they're kind of in form. Where a lot of those guys just looked bad. Sobe was okay, but some of the shooting was just poor form. Glidden looked terrible.
The Tall Blacks are a good team, man. They actually a decent team.
Yeah, they're a good team, and they played in the World Cup. They took it to teams, and I didn't expect us to get the win that last night.
You would think, with that team, it's not the worst team, the worst Aussie team, but for how well New Zealand played, like I went, man, you deserve that win. That was a good win. No matter who was the opposition, like if it was our best team, I would have still gone, like if you were worthy of that win, I would have gone, nah, fair play. They played really well. But I really like that Adnam, Detch, and Glover got a run out for Australia too. That was good to see them. So it didn't really matter to me because I kind of went, I want to see these young guys play because at some point we're going to have to kind of refresh the team in the next 2 or 3 years, and these young guys need experience.
So the next game, Josh Gidley will be in the team as the starting point guard, 200 centimeters. So Ben Simmons-esque. He's 17, just won MVP at the Global NBA Skills Challenge. So they've brought him back, suited up. He's going to be the youngest player since Ben Simmons to suit up in the next game, which I think is Saturday night, which will be good to see his skills because he can shoot the mid-range and the three, but his passing is insane. So if you want to go check him out, go to YouTube, look up Josh Gidley highlights. Kid's going to be special. They're already picking him a top 10 draft prospect 2021. So whether he goes to college or whether he comes to the NBL and is a one and done, he's one of those mutant point guards. So will be very interesting to see, but he's going to be playing the next game. Will Weaver he just got off a plane and didn't want to play him first game just in case he got injured.
Yeah.
But yeah, he will be playing next game. And that will be good to see. Good to see what the future holds anyway.
So yeah, it was I only saw the score after, and then I watched a little bit of the game the other night, like on replay. And I was like just really impressed with New Zealand. I thought, this New Zealand team's coming along, a little bit of a linkage to some NBL players and the New Zealand Breakers as well. Like that's good to see those bonds strengthening as well, because I think if we can strengthen their team, it's a nice little, rivalry we can build, and we can develop ourselves and them and all get better at the same time. Like we're kind of a bit isolated down here. You know what I mean?
There's not a lot of teams that can take us the full length in this part of the world, is there? Even with like a fourth string Boomer squad, there's not a lot of teams that can take it to us. So it's good to see New Zealand. And man, Rob Lowe played really well.
Yeah, for a guy who had a average season, and in terms of NBL pedigree, not the the best big man, but he can shoot the three when he lights it up. You're just like, what, Rob Lowe?
Why? How?
Why is it so?
How?
But yeah, it's interesting to see. We'll probably cover some of the stuff, the Boomer stuff, in the off season. So it was interesting to watch a little bit of that and just have a quick chat about it. But the meat of the night, the main part of the night, the Sydney Kings, a record-breaking season, 20 wins. Should we go all the way back to sort of last season and where we were at, and just kind of appreciate where we've gone this season? Like it hasn't quite sunk in just what we did, the record, and the way we've kind of transformed our team. Like it feels like we're more likable and more of a team where like people can respect. It doesn't matter if you're a rival or one of the other teams. Like you can respect what the Kings have done this season. It's been without sort of whinging, without like, any sort of ugly play. Like it's been pretty good to watch. But I think going from this last season to this season, like I've just enjoyed every minute of it this season, and 20 wins and a record setting, going all season without being
dropping below the
first.
number, under first, dropping below. It's been a crazy season in terms of just how many unknowns there were coming off the end of the Gaze era, and then coming into Bogut being a year older and keeping some of the core of the team, but yet picking up guys like Sean Bruce hadn't played in 12 months, jae'sean Tate 6'4" power forward, like who thought about that? Craig Moller, who really has not played any minutes in the last few years, just beefing up and becoming an integral part. Then Kevin Lish getting injured, and Kwani and Jordan Hunter and Lucas Walker just completely non-existent, but putting good minutes in when they've had to, which is deep garbage time. So interesting. Couple of the young Kings as well. Good to watch in deep garbage time. We've had more deep garbage minutes this season, which has been nice as well to see some of the younger talent get out there and see what they're going to be about in the next couple of years. But we didn't really build a team. We picked up some excellent talent mid-season, which was nice. Xavier Cook's obviously signing a long contract, coming off Europe and playing in the summer league, and just slotting straight into the team and taking that spot that we missed when we went on those run of games of losses, where Craig Moller was filling that void. Cooks slid right in, and then we went back to winning ways. Obviously being part of the Next Stars program, Dita Lozada, already an NBA draftee, coming and playing lights out in the preseason, and then never really living up to that again. But also flashes of what he could do in there as well, but not living quite up to that preseason. I think that's more injury related than anything. Obviously being rested the last couple of weeks, but having injuries and in and out throughout the season. But when he gets going, is phenomenal. So
we'll get to the individuals. So we'll mainly just talk about the team. What about your favorite performance of this season?
I think the Adelaide overtime win for me is my mind. It's the jae'sean Tate experience down the end of the stretch, and man, just playing lights out in a game that we probably should have lost. But somehow digging deep and pulling out the win was pretty amazing.
Yeah, Perth. I think Perth, where we just annihilated them home. Diddy I never got a response on whether that plus 37 was a record, because I think that has to be an NBL record of plus minus a plus 37 on the night. Just an absolute beast of a performance, lighting it up from three. The 3 Melbourne games that we won were pretty good.
Yeah, that's always great beating Melbourne, because we hate Melbourne so much.
Yeah. A couple of good performances against the Hawks, even though they were cellar dwellers. Just looking through here, there was a Taipans win at the start of the season. I thought it was quite a good win. And then a couple of New Zealand wins in there. What about the Phoenix? Like beating the Phoenix, I think was a nice matchup. I feel like the Phoenix were a mirror team, but just not as good as the Kings.
Yeah, I think that they were a mirror team, but defensively lacking. I mean, second units, undersized guards, and Dane Pinot just didn't really match up well with Sydney and what Sydney was about. But again, it was they were hot, and then I think they just didn't have the depth in their roster to carry that through to any kind of season-wide performance. They'll get better, and they'll improve on that. I do think they need to bring in a better big man. Well, Dave Pinot had a great season. I think it was more a result of just minutes as opposed to technical skill.
I think like when you think about it, we kind of offloaded our problems from last year to them. Yeah. It's like, have our 2 defensive problems. And when we played them, you just were like, oh, these are all the things we were struggling through last year. Like, nice. Like, we don't have to worry about this anymore. This is good. Yeah. Not that I bear any ill will towards Pinot or Adnam. I think they're both pretty good players. But that goes back again to the last season to this season. Like, there was an obvious transformation in terms of defense, bodies, the wider team being a bit of a cohesive unit. Now, I don't think this year it was structurally as sound. Like, I don't think this team was structurally as sound as last year's team, but this team had more like the peaks were higher. Like, it wasn't a rhythm based team where last year, if you didn't get into rhythm, we just kind of just petered out into nothing. This year we had a driver that actually would drive us into some peaks that actually, bore fruit and made us play a lot better in general.
I think there's also as well is you have to remember is we ran everything through Bogut last season, and this year he was kind of non-existent in many aspects. Did not see the same levels of performance the year before. Played no more than 25 minutes a game. But in saying that, we saw some of the best finishing around the rim the NBL has ever seen in jae'sean Tate. And it just seemed like last year we could struggle for long, long stretches. There was always like, there's a quarter here where they're just not going to do anything because we just haven't got anything that can create a shot. Whereas this season, it seems like where Tate, even Moller at times, could create a shot off the dribble, get to the basket. Brad Newley, I think, played better this year. And that fed more into the team performance as a whole, where people were allowed to be a little bit more free in how they did things. It wasn't as structured, you're right, but I think that's for the better in many respects because I think the structure last year was too centered around two players and not team oriented. It wasn't team ball. It's the same thing run over again, play after play, and a lot of high weaving. I'm so glad the high weave is gone. That was just horrible.
For that.
Oh.
But so this team, I think it's reflected. We'll go through some of the stats. It's reflected in the stats in that this team was a kind of a 3-ball and at the rim team. And look, it's not my preferred style. Like, I like a little bit of rhythm here and there, but I think as in terms of effectiveness, it's something that the league didn't really hasn't seen in the last few years. Like a team where basically like you got two thrusts, like the dagger and then just the sword where you chop the team's head off. That was really evident. We shot 47.6% from the field in general. So a lot higher than last year. I think we were about 45% from the field last season from memory. But Cairns was we were second. Cairns was first at 47.9. So, another finals team. It's good to see them at the top after their season before. In terms of the 3-ball, we were 8th in three shoot at 3-point percentage, 33.9%. But that has a lot to do with Casper Ware's just some of the absolute garbage that he was putting up, like just tossing up flaming bags of dumpster fire in some of these games. Like 2 of 11s, 4 of 15s weren't that great. But it kind of speaks to the way we played this season, threes or at the rim, basically. And, even New Zealand at 38.3% from 3, that's not great for the highest. No. These are real GM stats. I didn't actually get the main NBL stats, but this is according to real GM. But a lot of that has to do with just some of the bad looks. The amount of threes we took was the most, 919 threes.
Most in the modern 10-minute quarter NBL game by a country mile.
Are you into that?
It's an NBA style of coaching. This is what the NBA has become. It's become threes and at the rim. Mid-range is dead. The Warriors killed it. And now we've evolved into teams that shoot high volume early in the shot clock. And the teams that get up more shots and more defensive stops are blowing other teams out of the water. And that's what Sydney was. Sydney was lucky in the fact that although we were the lowest shooting percentage, you probably look at our finishing around the rim, it's probably one of the highest percentages in the league because jae'sean Tate would have had ridiculously high percentages. Cooks would have played well. Even Bogut would have had high percentages around the rim. So it's really high volume early shot clock threes or high percentage around the rim. And it's the NBA format. And Will Weaver's come just off a season playing with coaching the Long Island Nets. And this is what teams do to win.
To be honest,
it's the style, yeah.
Diving, a lot of diving and a lot of threes. Again, it's not my preferred style, but I think it's an effective one. And I like these players too. Like, I like the Sean Bruces, the Mollers, where at the start of the season you just go, I don't know what these guys are going to be. But then by the end of the season, you're like, these two just became the most important, likable guys in this team. I love that. Like that's been one of the biggest things this season for me. Is like just likable dudes where you're like plays hard, like really likable, really not necessarily clutch, but really makes good decisions in crunch time. I like that, and that's been a big factor this season. In terms of turnovers, we were sixth in turnovers, 327. Perth with the best record, 284 turnovers. It's pretty nuts
It is
the way
nuts.
they handled the ball. Rebounds this season. Sorry.
They're a very low passing team, low assist team. It's always cotton ISO. So you will see that from a low passing team, whereas a lot of it, I'd like to see Bogut's turnover ratio to assist ratio this year because there was a lot of turnovers in running plays and a lot of off the ball cuts that didn't make their
there was a fair
interceptor.
few. 65 assists, 39 turnovers. Not bad.
Not great, but anyway.
In terms of rebounding the ball, first in rebounds, like that's another thing that's turned around.
Yep.
We rebounded the ball much, much better this season. Offensive boards we were last, but defensive boards we were first. So 838 rebounds and 1,053 in total. That's where I think this team turned it around. Like we needed to clean that up from last year. Despite having the best rebounder in the league, we were just somehow getting killed by rebounders. And it was mainly the non-big men rebounders. Like that was where we were getting killed. We bring in three guys that are 6'4", 6'5", and suddenly, oh wow, we're rebounding the ball well again. Like that was one of the big issues that they turned around this season. In terms of assists, Perth 511 were fourth, and then Sydney 505 in fifth, which was interesting because we had a few games this season where we had a lot of assists, like a lot of made field goals and assists. I'll just bring it up. There was a couple of, there was a 26 to start the season. There was a 19, 19, 20. Then sort of through that loss, a few loss patches were like 14, 10, 15, 18, 12. Then back to 29 against Southeast Melbourne, 20. So we had a lot of games where we were assisting the ball really well. There's a lot of dive and kickouts to guys, and a lot of kind of like drive, see a guy inside, dish it off, and score at the hoop. Like less like isolation drives to the like. I have no stats to back this up, but it felt like there was less. I'm just going to get the ball and go to the hoop, and more kind of entry dribble, have a look, pass it, give it back out. Another entry dribble, and then JT would be there, and you're just like, oh, JT's wide open, nice, bang. And then he'd either dunk or just finish around the rim because they couldn't close out on him quick enough, and he used his body really well. So that was good to see. Our assists, I don't know what they were from last season, but it feels like they would be up. Nah, maybe they would be down a little bit.
Randall wasn't really a pass first point guard.
So we did kind of move the ball a little bit better, I feel like, last year.
Yeah, I suppose less early on chucks, so probably a little bit more moving.
Casper. But that's all right. In terms of steals, we were dead last, 136 steals. Illawarra were first with 182. That kind of makes no sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is LaMelo and Sunday Dej.
Dej was so good. I'm so happy he got Australia cap too, because I think he's going to be a really good player. Like in terms of the NBL level talent that we supplement this team with, I think he's going to be really good. And then blocks, we had the most, 104, despite not having the main accolade winning shot blocker, because Magne ended up winning the most blocks per game stat. We still had 104 blocks, which is an impressive total.
5 a game, 4.2 a game or something like that.
And then in terms of points, we were third, 2,642 points. Southeast Melbourne were first, 2,671, so not too far off there. I think there was at one point there we were leading in terms of points scored, which makes sense, I guess. We were on top. We were winning a lot of games.
We did go through a pretty low-scoring stretch there.
Yeah, in that middle stretch. Yeah, that was a real struggle.
The no Moller, no Cook stretch.
I'm just having a look. We ended up winning the first 6, and then losing to Melbourne, and then winning the next 5. So that was 11-1, I think we were. And then 2 losses, a win, a loss, a win, loss, loss, win, win, loss. And then we kind of closed out the season with win, 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 loss, win, win. Which, again, like talking about the team, like just staying on the team for a second, this finish to the season felt much better than last season.
Yeah, it felt like we're coming to a crescendo instead of just limping in. You know what I mean? Just like
all passing the buck, and you know, it was Perth passing the buck to us. We passed it to Melbourne, we passed it back to Perth, and then Perth ended up getting it, and we ended up losing home court because of that. Like, we didn't just like take the bull by the horns and win one of those games and finish on top. This season, like we did that. We achieved that. We won 5 out of our last 6. And that was essentially what catapulted us to making sure we kept home court and top spot. And I think that's going to be really important against Melbourne. Shout out, I'm going to be doing a Melbourne video preview of that series very soon. I've done all the prep work, so I'm just going to be recording some of the footage and stuff like that. It'll be very interesting to go through, so we won't talk too much about the Melbourne series upcoming. I don't like that they made the finals, but it is what it is. Here's some stats that'll blow your mind outside the scope of things. I've got the top 5 who assisted who here.
Okay.
Casper Ware assisted Tate 33 times, top.
Makes sense.
Bogut assisted Ware 26 times, second. Bruce assisted Kickett 24 times, third.
That's that second unit.
It's pretty good. And then Ware assisting Bogut 22, and then Tate assisting Ware 16. So the Ware Tate Ware thing was really good. I would have liked to have seen Ware Bogut a little bit higher up there, but it is what it is, I think.
Well, that's low shooting percentage off Bogut screens. Obviously, fighting around a screen instead of going for the high pick down screen.
Maybe a little bit of Casper holding the ball a little bit too much and shooting. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting to see. And any other honorable mentions that didn't make the top 5? Ware assisted Newley 14 times. I've got Tate assisted Ware 16. He was 5th. And then Bruce assisting Tate and Bruce assisting Newley 12 times each. So I think Sean Bruce, we'll get to Sean Bruce talking a little bit about him, but him driving that second unit was a huge, huge boost to this team this season. Forming that partnership with Kickett and the other guys around the team too. Like he ran a point where he got guys involved. Like, he shot the ball quite well for a stretch. It felt like he dimed the ball up nicely when the shot wasn't going down. And then also I feel like towards the end of the season, he is starting to lose a little bit of his pop, but then DT stepped up, and it was by committee. The team did it. Somebody stepped up in his absence, which was really good to see this season. We kind of didn't have that last season. I don't feel like we had you're not doing it tonight. Like, I'll step up and do it. We kind of had, you're not doing it tonight. Oh, well, we'll just lose this one then. Sweet. What else, you know? So any other team related stuff that you wanted to go through?
No.
Plus minus, I should just quickly talk about that. Sean Bruce, highest in plus minus. He was a plus 159 on the season. And plus 60 in his last 10. And then in the second half of the season, he was a plus 102. So really, really important minutes off the bench from him. I've got here, I'll post all of these stats so everyone can see them to the King's Dime, the Facebook page, and on Twitter. If you look at here, the last 10, every sort of guy who was in on the bench. So Bruce, Diddy, Tate, Kickett were the top 4, and then Bogut, Ware, Newley. Out of the top sort of 7 guys, only really Bogut and Newley went down in plus minus. So Bogut was 37 in the in the last 10. Sorry, Bogut was in the last 10 games. Bogut was 37, finished on plus 33. So kind of tapered off a little bit, but everyone else like raised their game. So I think that's really important coming into this final, that the team kind of was firing and really fired us to that top spot, which was really good. But I'll post all these numbers anyway on the King's Dime, rather than me just reading out numbers just for fun. So there was nothing else you wanted to go through?
No, that's good.
We'll move on to our gradings. Just there. Woo, there you go. You won't be able to see this, but the viewers at home, introducing some new stuff for this season review. The grading system. We said last year not really based around anything, based around more about a feel. There wasn't, an A is great, a B is, acceptable, a C, not so great, and then a D. I don't think we had any Ds last year, but a D is kind of,
How did we not have a D? David Ware was an F.
D. Was he? I'm glad you
I'm
remember
pretty
that.
sure he's an F.
I blacked that out of my memory. So David F, basically.
David F.
And then I've got here the ungraded. So we'll start with Coach Will Weaver, but I've got here the ungradables. We'll just quickly talk about them. Kiwani, who didn't have, he didn't get a lot of minutes in the limited time he was with the team. He ended up getting waived, which was a shame. I liked him. The time he did spend on the court, he contributed, and a good presence. I think a good attitude. He was there doing what he could for the team. Lucas Walker, again, another veteran. Did he do enough to really get a grade? Do you think?
No.
No, I don't think. I'll have a look at his stats. Sorry, yep. Looking at these stats here. Played 100 minutes, 27 points for the season. Is 100 minutes enough minutes to really grade someone?
Yeah, I think so. I think 100 minutes. It's a notable amount of time. It's 10 games at 10 minutes a game. He's to be graded. It is decided.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to change all this artwork. It's gonna be brutal. All right, I'll just quickly throw it in here. Ungradable. Just keep talking about Jordan Hunter and Lucas Walker while I do this.
So Jordan Hunter is someone that I felt.
Gradable? No, you can't grade Jordan Hunter.
Can't grade Jordan Hunter, but we've got to look at his season. Really, not playable in many instances. I think he's still young, still learning the game. There's some good highlights of him at St. Mary's playing with the likes of Emmett Nair and so forth, but a little bit stone handsy, a little bit, I think, in awe of what he's doing, maybe, and trying to build his NBL repertoire. He's kind of the Dane Pineau of last year, although Dane Pineau was our backup last year, as opposed to Kickett being our backup this year, and Cooks, who can play the five very well and has a great timing. So not got a lot of minutes. If there's an expansion team in the NBL, it'd be great to see him start somewhere or play a true backup center role somewhere to get some minutes. Finishing around the rim was a little bit left to the side. Things he's got going from him, I think that he's got good rebounding ability, and with a little bit better timing would be a good rim protector because he's quite bouncy. So
yeah, I think
future.
I think he does have a bright future. One of the biggest things that I saw in him is I went back and watched a bit of his high school highlights, because it's interesting to get a view of what a kid grew up playing as. And if you look at some of Tate's highlights, a best comparison really is not comparing the two players, but an interesting comparison between JT and Hunter is that JT was kind of always a bigger guy who played close to the basket growing up in high school. And it was a set position. It's kind of like Draymond Green, where he always wasn't, he was never a scorer. He was never a ball dominant scorer type guy. He always had a role playing defense and in the offense facilitating. So he's grown up, and JT, they've grown up playing these positions where Hunter was holding the ball, dunking all over people, driving to the hoop. He had the ball in his hands, doing all this crazy stuff. And then he got to college and had to kind of be a center. And you can see that fundamental thing isn't there. It's not there. Your footwork's not great. Your hands are a little off. A few times this season, sending a few dodgy screens and kind of where am I looking around? Oh, wait. Oh, shit, I was supposed to be over there. A few of those moments this season. It's understandable he's a young man, but I feel like he's a guy who hasn't grown into his body, hasn't grown into his role, because he's still a young guy coming back. But in the next 4 years, I think it'll define his career as he grows a little bit in this team.
Yep.
But back to Lucas Walker real quick. What grade did you want to give him?
C.
C? I went for a C plus. So
yeah, I think there's enough there to say that he would be a good vet on a team. Maybe a little bit old now, maybe a wasted year, but we got lucky. We got lucky with guys that he could have been useful down in injury time when Moller got injured, but then Cooks came on board. So it was a good signing, but yet unusable, and in many instances unplayable because of the younger guys and the better defenders. But he's not the worst player in the NBL. and would have been really good on like an Illawarra or even a Southeast Melbourne Phoenix as a backup power forward, because he could shoot the ball a little bit and could score efficiently enough. But on the Sydney team, pretty much null void.
I think veteran-wise, he provided some kind of leadership, which was good. He came in a few times and just gave a little bit of that veteran hustle, got in people's faces, did a little bit of the physical work. But great attitude. I went with C+. Great attitude. Just was happy to go 10 minutes a night. You want me to play that, boss? No good. No worries. No good. But the good thing is that, he took that hit, Gastro, in that last game of the season. I think his highlight of the season was that Gastro, the last game of the season. Letting DT play. Hopefully
how long does Gastro last? 5 or 6 weeks?
Yeah, hopefully that Gastro lasts a few more weeks. But I think, a decent addition. I think the roster was kind of too stacked for that position or his contract and that position to be something. You know what I mean? I don't think a great player could have fit in his spot. That makes sense.
It was a spot that should have really been there for Quiney. Guy is still up and coming and just needed to be part of a team, whereas Walker could probably have played efficiently somewhere else.
And I feel like kind of Moller and Cooks has just eaten what he kind of could have brought to the team.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we snuck those grades in. I've put that on the video. I think we'll go back while we're here to Will Weaver, the coach. We'll start with him. Great season. Say a few words about his season.
Great season. I think he has the players' ears, and he has the main players' ears in Ware and Bogut. Good coaching. Interesting, a style the NBL has never seen before. A little bit too much ISO Casper in tight situations down the stretch instead of running go-to plays. And I think we saw that in that Melbourne game where he got ejected and it was 5 minutes of Casper Ware bricking shots with nothing else in between. And that was a little bit disconcerting and worrying. We haven't really need to do that for the rest of the season, but I'm worrying in these playoffs if it is tight, instead of running guaranteed high-low action with Bogut or, some good double screen action to get JT open, or even Newley, getting him close to the bucket. If it's going to be Casper bricks for the last 4 minutes, that's my biggest worry, especially Melbourne's a smarter team than that. But great season overall. Definitely giving it a B+.
So you're giving him a B+?
Yep.
All right. Put that in
for the coach, you got to bring the title home for an A+.
So I went with an A-. I think for the season he had, an A+ season in general. But then if you take, if you inject that little mid-season slump, the LLWLWLL part, I think just takes it down a notch. It had some coaching issues, some kind of personnel issues, some mixing up of the team that didn't, I didn't see it and go, oh, he's played that really well. Oh, look what he's done here. He's played this perfectly. I kind of saw that as man, what are you doing with this? Just put this guy, why are we playing this guy a little bit too much? Stuff like that where, but again, who are we to sort of say, Will Weaver, what are you doing type of thing? It was just great to have him, at least a high level coach, come out where you're just happy to trust him and just go, look, I trust what he's going to do. So that also plays into my grade as well. But I think a 20-win season in your first season shows the caliber of the man, but as well as the emotional input that he's had on these guys. Again, to go back to there's some dudes on this team where I'm just I want these guys to win. I really like Bruce Moller, DT as well, who's come on strong. I want to see those guys win. And you can tell that he as a coach connects to this group of guys and gets them firing, gets them wanting to, connect to fans going, I want to see these guys do well. Last year became a little bit you have to be wary of the coaching and go, he's going to do this, he's going to high weave, he's going to run this rotation. I just felt like this year I could connect to this team watching it and just go, I want to watch this team get out of these situations. And yeah, I think his highlight of the season was that ejection. So probably 40 parts unnecessary, 60 parts. Nice.
Giving the refs exactly what they deserve.
Definitely.
A mouthful.
So yeah, A- B+ for you. I think that's pretty fair. We'll move on now to the second unit. We'll start with Deshaun Taylor. Give us some words about Deshaun Taylor's season.
I think he's a guy that came into the team, obviously getting dropped by Adelaide just before the NBA crossover games in the US. Something to prove. Not undersized, but probably not NBA caliber talent. He found something in this team that I think that they needed, which was deep bench hustle. Maybe didn't fit in for the first 6 games, found a bit of rhythm. I think he's definitely got my trophy for Pest of the Year. He's a pest that we need, and it's going to be important going into the Cotton series because he's a guy that's you're going to want to pest Cotton and fight around screens. Found his 3-ball.
And looks slick too. That 3-ball, like, it started out, I was like, ooh, you're elephant trunking that a bit too far out from the front in front of you, man. Like it's almost like a chest pass type of 3. But by the end of the season, it kind of felt like, man, he's open. He's knocking this thing down. And he was, which was good.
He was, and it was good. And it's good to see. I think he will develop into a good league player. I'm going to give him a B.
You're going to give him a B?
B.
I gave him a B also, so I'll throw that in. Save that. It'll pop up. We're just going through his stats. Ended up playing 327 minutes, which was pretty good for a guy who only played... he ended up playing, I think, 22 games. So a fair few minutes, 143 points all up. So averaging 6.5 per game. It's not the greatest numbers. But 41.2% from the field from a guy who predominantly didn't have an inside game. Like that was one of the big things about him, is like when he drove, you could kind of tell like he'd terminate dribbles and just look around looking for something to happen. But at the end, that 3-ball went down. He ended up lifting that 3-ball percentage to 38.1% and shot 84% from the line too, although he didn't get there that many times.
Yep.
Which was good. He grabbed some boards too, which was important late in the season. He had 24 rebounds. 21 assists was pretty solid too. 14 turnovers, so decent enough ratio. Not the worst. 30 fouls. It's a fair few fouls. Not the highest in the team, but fair few fouls. But to his nature, yeah, I think the pestilence that this team needed, because I think Sean Bruce is a very I want to play the game the right way player, whereas Taylor has something to prove. Like you could see that after Adelaide dropped him, he had something to prove. He came out I'm going to just play as hard as I possibly can. And it was something, again, that the team injected just at the right time. Another good masterstroke, a little bit of coaching masterstroke from the team. I don't think it was just Will Weaver. I think it was Marich, actually, that teed that up. I could be wrong about that, but it's good to see that front office unit working really well. Anything else about DT?
That's it.
Nah, so we'll move to Craig Moller.
So you have to give a rating based on what you think his season is, where he's come from.
So just talk it through. I reckon.
Yeah,
it helps to talk from. Sorry to cut over you. It helps to talk about where he came from and what you thought he was going to bring to this team. Because I remember doing that video and like having a bit of a dig at him, highlights not found, and being like, man, I can't see him playing anymore. I think I said to you on one of the podcasts, man, I can't see him playing any more than 7 minutes standing in the corner and just not doing much. And yeah, like talk about what you thought about him this season.
I think early season we saw hustle more than anything, and it filled that deep void of we need a second rebounder in this team. We need someone who's going to crash the offensive glass, and someone who's can knock down a 3-point shot. And for a while there, he could do all three. Obviously, the 3-ball just fell away.
Oh, the 3-ball was just gone at the start of the season.
Gone. But someone who could knock down knock down the rebounds defensively. Kind of skirted that outside of Bogut area. But someone who could crash the glass hard, who could defend. Similar players. It added a bigger guy to the team who could play a small forward position, and then you're really clamping down space in that team. He scored around the rim not too badly. I think it was something that probably could have been done better. If he develops any kind of masterful 3-point shot, he'll get higher than a B from me. But I'm going to go a B minus because I think that he added heaps to the team. But I think he was like a 1 from 20 from 3 by the end of it. It was just
5 of 29 from 3, so he shot 17.2%.
Yeah, and
from 3, 87% from the line though.
It means it's not far away.
Mm.
That's what that means. It means it's not far away, but it's got to get above 30%, really. So yeah, B minus for me.
And then he ended up having 65.8% from 2. So that's not from the field. That's from 2 from inside the 3-point line, and then 45% from the field in general. I think where his prowess came to the fore was really on that defensive end. We had a guy who could cut and defend 1 through 4. We could stick him out there on the perimeter. We could have him dig in and play down low with kick it, helping him on that bench, in that bench unit. That's where his most important aspect was lost, and that's where we kind of spun him into Cooks, where we were just like, we circumnavigated that, and then we kind of got around that. I think he was a really important piece that we lost when he went down with that ankle fluid, whatever it was. He had some fluid on his ankle or something
infection.
like that.
I think it was an infection. Yeah. That's why it's been off so long.
Ended up grabbing 55 boards, again, turning around that guard spot where we had a guy who could play from a 2 or a 3 spot and rebound the ball, and it was an important part of turning this team from one of the worst rebounding teams last year into one of the best, or if not the best rebounding team this season. A plus 51 on the season. I went with, sorry, I've taken so long to do that. I went with an A minus, because from where he came from and to where he is and how important he became, I think maybe I'm gonna go take it back to a B plus, because I guess like staying healthy is part of it, isn't
it? Staying healthy, being average at scoring, but then doing the little things really well. So yeah, he gets that 3 ball percentage up, and he definitely makes an A.
Yeah, so I changed mine to a B plus. I've saved it. It should just pop up really quickly. Your highlight for him of the season?
Oh, that is a tough one.
Does that speak to like part of his influence? Like he didn't have highlights, he just did those things.
Yeah, he didn't have highlights. He just did all the little things. There'd just be stretches of the games like, oh man, he's on ball. He's on par today. But yeah, he's not really a highlight real player. Early in the season, I think he had a game where he just, I've got to think of the team. I'll have to go back. But I think there was a game early in the season where he was just diving on everything defensively, got a couple of steals and a couple of stops. And then
I think it was Adelaide in the second game.
Yeah.
He was a plus 18 against Adelaide. Looking at his box score, he had 22 minutes, 12 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 4 rebounds, 1 turnover, and a block. I think that's the game you're talking about.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a good season for him. I think the best thing that encapsulates him wasn't the highlights guy, but did everything at such a high fundamental level that really, really helped this team and really came on strong. Young man too, Sydney Sider. It's good to see him have a really good season. All right, we'll move to Daniel Kickett.
I've got to start this by his grade, and then I'll explain the grade as opposed to, because I mean, Kicker's been in the league for so long, so we all know what he does, right?
All right, throw your grade.
B plus.
B plus. I went with an A minus.
I wasn't high on Kickett at all last year. I think that it was just like, get this guy off. But that's because Andrew Gaze was just playing him so far out of position and out of where he needed to be. He's not a quick player. Playing him post to post at a 5 spot is suicide defensively because he can't set his feet. And I think Will Weaver saw that and just like, right, you're just going to be a 3-and-D player. Just your body, you're a 6'10" body. Get in front of people and trail and shoot the 3 ball. And that is so much more of an effective kick it. And, he finished the season 52% from 3?
He ended up with 50.6% from 3.
That's absurd. Numbers. That's absurd.
41 of 81, yeah.
It's absurd on decent numbers. So that's a pretty, you put it on par in an NBA season, that's getting close to 200 threes at 50%. That's elite. That is super elite.
So 50, 40, 90, he free throws were at 82%. So really it could have been a 50, 90 guy, like if he had got his free throws up.
So that's my
nuts,
explanation.
really. Like, if you're looking at an older player, in his like you got to take a step back and just go, that man's 36, has been a great shooter for a long time, and I think this season we were able to bring his defense to a level where you could dig down and help him. Whereas last year, like, he'd be left on an island so much, and you were just like, we cannot have this guy in this team because he cannot keep him on the floor in defense. And it felt like he needed to be that Lucas Walker guy. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where he needed to be in this team. But as the season went on, man, his defense, and he was just using his body really well under the basket. Like, some of the worst calls where guys would just drive into him and get free throws.
He's just standing straight still,
And then,
hands
yeah,
straight up in the air. You couldn't get any more textbook defense, yet he'd still get calls. It's just hilarious. But again, that goes to my position on Gay's played him in the post. He's not quick enough to play post to post. Playing him arc to post is a much more efficient way of doing it. It allows him to get his feet set and becomes more effective defender because he's a big body. And that's what you had to do. Weaver saw that, and, the rest is history.
And then having that connection with Sean Bruce too was really important. I think that helped him stay in those areas. Like, he stayed in those zones because he had a pass first point guard that came off the bench with a lot of good hustle and actually facilitated his play. Like, it was a 2-man type thing. Last year it was like he was part of that bench unit. He had to play 4 positions and, defend 3 guys, do all these things. This season, like, we gave him like one job. You stand there, you do this. Sean Bruce will find you when you're trailing. Sweet. And that's your job. And I think we did really well to kind of bring that out of his game this season. So you went with, what did you end up going with?
B+.
B+. So I went with A-. Did I end up saving that? I did. So I went with an A-. I think he had a fantastic season. Again, in context of where he was last year to this year. But yeah, I think he had a really good season. Your highlight for him of his season?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember? I think he had a really good game against Perth in there somewhere.
It was the Perth game where he was just hitting them. And
I think he was like 5 for 5 in one of those games in there somewhere.
The latest Southeast Melbourne game where they were just leaving him open at the top and he was just knocking down everything was hilarious. It's like, you've seen the scouting report on this guy. You cannot leave him open at the 12 spot because it's like a layout for him. I think at one stretch there he was shooting 75% on like 50 attempts, which is absurd.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Absurd.
Absolutely nuts. So he had a 3 or 4 game against Brisbane at Brisbane. He had, I think against Southeast Melbourne, good memory, he had an 18 points, 7 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from 2, and then 4 of 4 from 3. Nuts, man. Just nuts seeing him shoot the 3 ball. Especially like if you put into context his numbers. He also had a good game against Illawarra at Illawarra, 12 points, 4 of 6 again, 4 of 5 from 3. Which is good. Just seeing him trail out and hit that 3, it's going to be really important in that final series that he gets free and he gets shooting those 3-pointers. Be really important. Now we'll move on to his sidekick, the kid, Sean Bruce.
Didn't have high expectations. Didn't even know what to expect at the beginning of the season.
I expected Walker level stuff. Like, he was the guard, Lucas Walker.
I think as a whole, a B player. I think, he shot the ball well, dished the ball well, went through a bit of a slump and has continued that slump through the back end of the year.
I think it's physical.
Yeah.
I think he's just played at too high of a level and done a little bit too much, and he's kind of paying for it. And that's his cap. I think that's his eliteness cap. You know what I mean? Like, his physical fitness cap is that it's because he's not an elite player. That's where he's kind of capped out at. I think this little rest period is going to be really defining in his final series. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much me. He's made the bench unit this year. Miles better than Kyle Adnam. Can defend the ball on ball, can defend above as well, can defend bigger players. Switched really well. Mate, that's why he was 159 plus 159. It's just he was elite compared to second string guards on every team. Put it that way. He was the best second unit guard.
Would you almost say best 6th man of the year?
I would say he would be close to 6th man of the year. Kickett as well, just because even though Kickett started a lot of games, the pure 6th man of the year, Shawnee Bruce.
Yeah, I think Sean Bruce was robbed, man. I don't know how Jason Kadee won that. I think he was Sixth Man of the Year.
I'm gonna get hot, man. I'm gonna get hot. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, bro. I'm gonna
I'm
get
telling
hot.
you, it's coming, boys. It's coming. I've hit one. I might hit 2 or 3, but you just wait for it. That's Jason Kadee. I love Jason Kadee though, ex-Sydney guy. So what was your grade for Shawnee B? B for him. I went with an A because I think if I'm giving Kickett an A-, I thought Sean Bruce, in terms of his role, was better than Kickett and complemented Kickett, but was better. So I went with A. You've gone with B, so I'll lock that in. Earned the nickname Shawnee Big Balls Bruce because he was knocking down those threes, and then turned kind of into Shawnee Gassed Bruce sort of towards the end. Not quite Rainbow Ray Turner, Ray Puffed, but
Ray Puffed. Oh my god!
There's a throwback to last season.
Coach,
I've got to come out. See, 4.5 minutes, boys. I got to come out.
There goes your career.
Rainbow Ray. And then now we'll go to our next star. I thought he wasn't kind of starter or second unit. He was kind of just next star.
In between. Yep.
Did he? You want to talk first and then grade?
Yeah, I'm going to talk first then grade. From where he was to where he sat to what he could be. That's the question. So where we saw him preseason, we're just like, what is this kid? You know, this is an NBA quality kid. Then the injuries came, the level dropped. There was flashes of brilliance. And then, you know, did he ever reach his peak again? I don't think so. I'm going to go with a B- because of where he was and how far he's got to get back there.
I think so. So let's start with the language barrier, right? At the start of the season, it didn't really matter because the preseason, like, he was just getting the ball and just doing whatever he wanted to do with it. And you're like, hey, man, take the ball and just do whatever. We went and watched that Illawarra game. He had an absolute blinder in that game, and they were just giving him the ball and just going, mate, just do whatever you want. The season started, and you could kind of see those, I can't really understand what's happening, sort of crept in a little bit. He was injured for those first few games, but it still felt like, oh, man, like, I don't want to get more injured.
Yeah.
For a lot of his season. I think his season can be defined by, I don't want to get more injured than I really am. So it was good to see him actually kind of stretch out a little bit at the start and then sort of just bring it back a little bit. But actually really a bit of a worry that he was injured sort of towards the end of the season. That calf injury, it was a calf injury, wasn't it? Achilles calf.
Yeah.
Ended up missing the last 3 games. 3 games sort of, you know, 3/4 away, just past halfway. He missed 3 games too with a knee complaint. I don't know, a little bit worrying, but I still think in terms of what he produced, he had a pretty good season, like a B season.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Good production, you know, but what it could be next year, if he gets fit and healthy, has a good off season, plays in the summer league, and we get him back next year, and he, you know, take that by the horns, then yeah, sky's the limit, really. There's talent there.
So he ended up playing 455 minutes in total. 205 points, so 77 from 186 from 2, 41.4%, 45 from 90, 48.4% from 2, and then 35.1% from 3. I'd like to see that 3 ball get up a little bit more towards 40. He was missing some open ones, and that was a little bit like, ooh, dude, look what's going on there.
Yeah.
Only 65% from the free throw line, which is also like, oh, what's going on there? But then 74 rebounds. If you look at other rebounding numbers, Kickett only had 68, so he out-rebounded Kickett.
But Kickett's 6'10" and jumps 6'3". Like he loses height when he jumps.
Yeah, negative. He goes through the floor when he tries to rebound. But yeah, so it was good to see him, like another one, like where you look at the Moller equation and go, oh yeah, another guard that rebounded the ball really well that led to our rebounding. 33 assists to 27 turnovers. Not a great ratio. How does he compare to you to Bowen last year?
I just don't think we saw anything of Bowen in a Gaze system. I think Gaze's system was so complicated and elite that he just didn't fit because he's like, oh, what's going on? This is just weird. And then he would fall out of sync and get yanked. or he'd get yanked when he was on fire. It's like, oh, Bowen's playing really well. Yep, your 4 minutes are up. Get out.
Yeah.
So it's hard to compare because sometimes Zada's been able to be let go. Sometimes he's been held back and he's been a lot more injured. So
I feel like keep going.
You look at what Tugs is doing for the Mad Ants this year in the G League. They're probably not far off each other's talent level.
I think so as well. I think it was always in Bowen, but you knew it was 3 years away for Bowen. Like it was, I'm going to the NBA to do it, guys, kind of away because of the way he was coached and the way Gay sort of coached him. Like he'd make one defensive mistake and then he'd be like, Tugs, like out. Like you'd hear the whistle go off and he just like, Tugs comes out of the game. You don't see him again. And he's just like, man, we want to see what this guy can do. I felt like Weaver used him a little bit better. He let him off the leash in a few games. He had that big game against Perth where he went off, I think 27 points. I think he had a little bit more like all-round ability than Tugs. But at the same time, I think Tugs was kind of a better just natural scorer.
Yeah.
Like you've seen Diddy's touch when he goes all the way to the hoop's really good. But when he doesn't go all the way to the hoop, his touch around the rim is not, like that was one thing that stuck out where I just went, ooh, like his touch from about 6 feet when he has to pull up and jump stop is not great. Whereas I felt like Bowen's was all round, like his touch, his jump shot was pretty good. But I still think both of them are going to be like solid, really good NBA players in general. And I think a B's a good season. I'd like to see him stay as well for another season. Would be really good, the Pels. Definitely. If they went through with that. Right, now we will move to the main team, the main men, the main unit as I've dubbed it. First guy, Kevin Lish.
Kevin almost is ungradable this year.
I know. I was almost thinking about putting him in ungradables, but you know,
it's Kevin Lish. You could take the last 3 seasons, just extrapolate it to. He's had very little impact on the team, but the impact he will have is a B+. He's been on the floor. He's been good, even in the short minutes that he's played, getting into the finals. He's almost ungradable, but you just got to give him a B+ because you know he's elite. You know that potentially he'll get back up there.
So I went with a B-. And again, it is, you're right, it's borderline ungradable, but I still feel like I think he ended up playing, 3, 5, 7 games. At the start of the season, man, he just looked so good. And you were just like, yes, this team is going to be so good defensively. Diddy, Kevin Lish in there, Craig Moller grabbing boards over the top of everyone. And then he obviously went down with that injury. It was a bad one. Came back way too early. And when he came back, we were both like, dude, like, why did he come back? Like, what the hell? He did not look like Kevin Lish at all in those 2 games. I think he shot poorly. There was no bounce in his game, but it made more sense towards the end of the season where you're just like, oh, right, they had to just stab him in there and get some more games up because he wouldn't have made the amount of games to get to the end of the season to play enough to play in the playoffs. So he ended up playing 7, which was, I think, the number. 7's the number,
yes,
isn't it?
7's the minimum.
So the 3 at the end of the season, he still looks like solid, like not quite 100% there, but at the same time, you see what he gives this team. And I think if he was 100% there, we would have thrown him at Cotton in that Perth game and gone,
"Yep,
do your best, Cotton." I'm hoping if we touch wood make it there, we get to see Kevin Lish a little bit further into his rehab. You know, show what he's got on the defensive end. Hopefully against Melbourne too, because last year, like we threw him at Goulding in that final series, and he kind of clamped Goulding up, and you were like, "Sweet, this is good."
And Casper just destroyed us.
Yeah, and Casper just torched us. But we took their man, which was good. So we've got him throwing up bricks. But we'll get to him. So you went with a B+. I went with a B-. Any stats? I think the first game of the season, like he was solid. And then the second game against Adelaide, he was solid again. Only 9 points in that game. But we need him, man. I just feel like we need him to be at some sort of level in this final series if we're gonna win the chip.
Indeed.
We move to Xavier Cooks, mid-season signing. 3 small forward, would you say? Power forward?
Center?
Small ball center. Like it was nuts just watching him play center this season.
Small ball center works for me.
I know. I loved it, man. As soon as Will Weaver, like another sort of like underrated shout out to Will Weaver, where you just go, man, tight move. Giving this guy a small ball center role, he absolutely embraced it. Just grabbing boards left and right. Defensively, very solid. Great hustle. Good calculated hustle too. Like it's not just out of control stuff. Like
It's
JT got a
got
little bit out of control there in some little stretches, but I just love the way he plays the game, and he's fit this team perfectly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If he develops any kind of outside shot, it'll just fit Will Weaver's system even better because you can play the small ball lineup more effectively. He just reminds me of like an NBL Draymond Green.
Yeah, man.
That's probably
he's kind of longer.
Yeah.
I don't know who he kind of reminds me of, but it's kind of like he's a small Bogut. Like it's bizarre, man. But he can handle the ball well and use his body and his size, and he's just got such crazy length. It's really not what I expected him to come in and provide for this team, to be honest.
No, I thought he'd just be kind of a 3-and-D player, like just stand in the corner, shoot threes, and then maybe guard the perimeter. But he's just an effective center. He's an effective defensive center. So look, for my mind, I'm giving him a B+.
Genius. B+ for you. I went with A- because I think he's given some important minutes. Really, really mature stuff too. I think he's only 24, is he?
Yes.
I think, let me just Google that quickly.
23, 4 years of college, 18, 20. Yeah, I think he's 23, 24.
He's 24, so he'll be 25 this year. Very mature for his age too. Really, really good guy, and it's great to see him, really providing something in this team. Like, I think about it, how he came into this team when Moller went down. You would have thought, he'll just do that. He'll play, 2 and 3, guard up to sort of 4, and he'll slot in there. But it was just perfect to see Will Weaver go, right, no, we're going to use this guy as a small ball center. He can defend the rim, pass the ball as well. I'm just looking at his block numbers. He ended up, I think, having 20 blocks, which is pretty
ridiculous.
nuts. Bogut ended up with only 30 on the season. And just his timing, man, is just really, really good. Ended up grabbing 127 boards, more than Brad Newley did over the entire season. What else in his numbers? 2 points, 54% from 2, only 15% from 3, 4 of 26. But I'd said to you when he came into this team, I was like, man, don't expect any 3 balls because it's there, but it's not there. Like, and he's a it's not there, so I'm not shooting him type of guy. Like he's been like that when he was at in Europe, when he was with that summer league, when he was with his college team as well, Winthrop as well. He was like, if it's not on, I ain't shooting it. And fair play, he's found a role in this system, and I think he's done really well. And he's been great to watch this season. Now Brad Newley, the next guy.
El
Toro.
Probably less of a role this year than last year, to be honest with you. I think he was more one of the big 3 last year. Randall, Bogut, and Newley, if you unleash big 4, I should say. But this year's kind of taken more of that savvy vet role where he could come off the bench or play in the starting 5. It didn't really make any difference to his game. Always, downhill specialist. He's an A- player at the best of times. A B player at the worst of times. You'll kind of always need him in your team. I think for this year, I'm going to give him a B+. Has been good. Corner Brad has been fantastic, and just needs to keep being corner Brad and corner and getting to the hoop and base cuts. Really, still super athletic for an older vet as well, and lucky to somehow fit him into this team.
Yeah, corner Brad is definitely best Brad for me. Took a few like he ended up with 44 of 125, so 35% from 3. I think that number, if you just stuck to corner threes, that number could probably come down to about 44 from 100. Like probably 25 of those threes were just bad, like 11 o'clock threes. Were like, Brad, come on, mate, like don't take those. Put the ball on the floor and get to the hoop. Shooting 61% from the rim this season. Just again, an absolute beast, and this system gets him into transition more. I feel like we're seeing less of him getting the ball off like in a curl situation where he has to like body up against guys while going to the hole. He can still finish those, and we saw that this season, but I feel like this season like gives him more space to get into those avenues to needle the opposition, and we saw that again. this season. Not much of a mid-range, but still putting the floor, deadly dangerous, putting it on the floor. 119 rebounds, 37 assists to 30 turnovers. That's a little bit big. But those turnovers are mainly like live ball sort of dribble situation turnovers.
Yep.
It's not really that much bad passing. We had both B pluses. He's your favorite performance. Does anything stand out for you in your mind?
What do you have that game against Cairns? It was the third game. Played super well.
First game was against Cairns.
No, the third game.
Oh, the third game against Cairns. Yeah. It's late, peeps. It's late. I'm just looking through his plus minus numbers. So he was good against New Zealand, plus 15. There was one in the middle against Melbourne, I think it was. At Melbourne. He had 9 points in that. What's this other one? 14 points. I feel like he had a 20-point game in there somewhere. What did you say, Taipans? He had 10 points against the Taipans in the first game. There was one we lost where I think he played quite well in that game. He had 16 against the Taipans, so it was pretty good. But I'm sure, there was a game in there where he had 20 points. Something like that. That was probably his best performance. We'll move just quickly to Andrew Bogut.
I am going to give my worst rating. Worst rating. I have to clear the throat for this one.
Scratchy-throated.
C.
Now, is this kind of like a reverse of the expected a lot and then didn't deliver?
Two things. Expected a lot and didn't deliver what the team needed at the right time. And my biggest pet peeve is camping in the lane and not stepping out to the attacking player in the mid-range. So many floaters from Bogut not stepping out. A lot of mid-range, lost us games, 25 minutes a night, not running up on the threes. I think that's why the Xavier Cook small ball works well better. He steps out, same as Newley, same as Kickett even. Bogut just lazy. Is it lazy? It's laziness, isn't it?
I don't want to admit it, man, but I think so many times this season I just be like, lazy, man. Step out, like that's lazy. And it's physical. Like you can see that end of season or the Warriors sortie and then the World Cup was the World Cup. Always get the Olympics and World Cup mixed up. You could tell that took it out of him, man. And he came back and he was always trying to re-find his fitness again this season. Plus, like you said, you made a really good comment earlier. We didn't run a lot through him. Like it wasn't just we're going through you now. Sorry, it was we're not going through you anymore. We've got a lot of different options here and a lot of hustle guys that can kind of hide the fact that you aren't a score first big man. And it's something that is a little bit of an evolution in the league where you're seeing big men now who score in more ways. And that's not to say that Andrew Bogut can't score in the post. We saw that last season, but it wasn't required in this team, I don't think.
It wasn't required. What was required was a guy that could step out of the dunker spot, out of the defensive circle, and get up on guys to hurry their shots through and then rely on someone like a Moller or Cooks to have your back, whereas he just kind of stood there and watched so much ball watching. And you can't do that, especially against Perth where they've got Nick Kay and Tarico White in the mid-range and Cotton. You're going to have to do better. And in a lot of the games, we were down to 4 defending 5. And that's my biggest peeve. If you're just standing there and this team's taking you to the 3-point line, it is a completely useless position. And it's 4 against 5. And on a team where 4 out of the 5 guys can knock down shots, even 5 out of the 5 guys can knock down shots. And that's Melbourne. 5 out of the 5 guys can knock down the 3-point shot.
Mm.
You don't want to be down
Barlow, but yeah.
Dave Barlow, in history-wise, can knock down the 3-point shot. Hasn't had a great season this year, but could get hot at any time. You don't want to be 4 and 5. That's my biggest pet peeve.
Yep. So and I think it's not harsh. It's not harsh, right? We're not sitting here just slagging him off, being like, come on, mate. Like you've had a bad season. Like I think it's constructive to sort of like take a step back and really retrospectively look at that season and just go, man, that just wasn't a great season for him. but I don't think I think there's an avenue for him to redeem it in this playoff series if he comes out, plays hard, fixes some of those fundamental things where it just left you kind of just going, oh mate, like what's going on there? For a guy who's 35, and you kind of wonder, is Father Time catching up to him? Like maybe he goes out with a last hurrah in this playoffs. But I still think he's got a few more years. But I still, like, it feels harsh to just be like, dude, that was not a great season. But at the same time, like, it kind of needs to be said. I think it does need to be admitted that he definitely wasn't as good as he was last season. And that's obvious. But I think it was kind of almost an unacceptable standard for his own personal standards, which is why I went with a B-. Because I still think shooting the ball at, I think it ended up being 59.4% from inside on 155 looks. Is not too bad for his ability, because his post game is not great.
No,
and it's never really been great since that elbow injury.
It's float game.
It's all about the floater game. 57.8% from the free throw line, not good either. But it's Bogut. 217 rebounds, rebounded the ball pretty solidly. Definitely our leading rebounder. 65 assists, again one of the best passing big men in the league. 65 to 39 turnovers, 11 steals, 30 blocks. That's probably the one thing you look at and just go, man, like that's a disappointing number.
I don't think that's the nature of his game. I think that's the nature of the league, recognizing there's no point going to Bogut in the post. You have to shoot in the mid-range or at the three-point line. Get open, get shots. There's no point going to the hole and the hoop. What's the point? His timing's too good, even as a 35-year-old. So that's team's evolution, not his evolution. But again, that's not him not stepping out. So it's a little bit here and there. The evolution of how teams play against Bogut.
All right, and that's enough about Bogut, I think. It's on to Casper Ware now.
I'll let you start this one first.
You're letting me start. I got 3 words for you, mate. Flaming hot garbage. Nah. That's harsh, man. It's you've just got to get used to a shooter who shoots out of slumps, I think. I don't think his season in the grand scheme of things has been poor or bad, or it's probably been just above average in general. But I just the shooting his way out of slumps, I think, is mental. And he's even admitted, I think this season I read something where he admitted like he's not entirely happy with his shot mechanics. At his stage of his career, does he have a chance to fix that? I don't think so. At the same time, I wanted to do that video, but I just couldn't. Like, I couldn't present it in a way that just all it was basically we just don't set high screens for him, man. And that's where he did so much damage last year. There's part of the reason why is because you don't want JT setting a lot of high screens because of the amount that he was just getting these bogus screen fouls. Guys flopping, guys like as soon as any smaller guy ran into JT this season, they'd just throw themselves on the ground and the refs would be like, oh yeah, offensive foul, of course. And you'd watch the replay and you just go, the guy just like ran into him and then fell over. Like what? Like the dude's 240 and an absolute beast. Most smaller guys are going to run into a bigger guy and fall over because that's, the nature of gravity.
Inertia.
Gravity, inertia. Minutia. I would have liked to have seen Newley come out and screen more. Like identifying this issue, I would love to have seen Newley come out. And even like in situations where you want to set him a lot of high screens, the 3 guys in terms of Cooks, Newley, and Tate, you kind of don't want them coming out and giving away a lot of fouls and having to sit down. And at the same time, like you're like, okay, can Bogut do it? You're like, well, no, Bogut can't do it. Like he literally doesn't have the pace to do it. Doesn't have the engine to do it. Like he's clearly struggling this season. And then Kickett's the same. You're like, Kickett, there's no point. Like the amount of times he just got like dodgy screens. And fair enough, bit of a little from column A, little from column B, dodgy screener at the same time. And it's not the system as well. Like 1, 2, 3, the screens, the highest screens, and it's not our system. Like he should be good enough to put the ball on the floor and get to the hole or make something happen. But I don't think that's his forte. Like getting the ball on the floor and playmaking isn't his forte. And I don't think it's been his forte in his career. He's been a very isolation, give me the ball and I'll score your bucket type player. a little bit of the Randall last year, where halfway through the season you could kind of see him noticing, oh, I've just got to play an entirely different way to the way I always played. And you kind of saw it with where this season, I felt like down the stretch of the season, he started to grow a little more, facilitate the ball a little bit more. But again, he just loves trying to shoot his way out of slumps. And it cost us a couple of games, but I'm not going to get too upset, which is why I went with a B+. Bam.
I can't really add anything to that. Very well said.
Yeah, what you want to add
I'm going to add an A-.
A-?
I still think he's an integral part of scoring for this team. Even he's in slumps, even though he's cost us a couple of games. There wouldn't be a lot of points on the floor if we didn't have him. So that's an A-.
I think it's such a hard thing to broach, isn't it? Where you're just like, this guy's still an integral part of the team. That's where I kind of like compartmentalized it to, you just got to get over him shooting himself out of slumps. And look, out of those games that are usually, like 3 of 13, 4 or 5 of them are probably on average good looks. And I don't know how, like, there's got to be some sort of balance there that we work out next season, where we're balancing his looks so that he's in a position to knock down those good ones. Just looking at his numbers, he ended up playing the most minutes, 846 minutes. Most points, 551. Again, you can't just go, well, that's not an integral part of the team. 38.5% from the field, 177 from 460. That's a lot of shots, man. 460 shots is a lot of shots. 96 from 192 from 2. So for a guard, 50% from 2 is great. Like, I want to see more of that. Like, that's where you just look at that number, do more of that. From 3, 81 from 268 on the season, a 30.2%. According to my numbers, but if you look at the Sydney Kings website, it says 38. It says 30%. So worse on the Kings website.
Okay.
Oh, no, it is 30.2. Sorry, yeah. I thought it said 32. It's late, and this is a long one. From the free throw line, 78.4% is not great for a guy who got fouled the most in our team, 131 fouls. I was almost in my video, like watching the video, I never did. Watching it going, this guy gets nothing, man. But in the end, looking at the numbers, you're like, actually, this guy does get a lot at the hoop, to be honest.
He could get more. But
yeah, or he could do it more and get more.
Yeah.
110 assists, most in the team. Anything else? His assist to turnover ratio, 110 assists, 59 turnovers. Blocked 20 times. It's a lot of times.
Well, dude.
Just unafraid at the rim, which I like. I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. You're unafraid at the rim. The chemistry with Bogut, I would like to have seen get a little bit better over the course of the season. I don't feel like it's at the level where I'm like, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, not a lot of high-low action. Now, should we roll the drum on this last one?
You gave yours. Is it up there? It is. It's absolutely hot as balls in here, so I'm busting out. I gotta undo. I gotta get this tie off, man. I'm dying here. I can barely see the screen from these sunnies as well. No, I'm locked in. No, I can't get this thing off. Oh no. This is a disaster. It's late in the piece. We've been going for like over an hour. I'm locked in. That's just a complete failure. JT, what a beast. I think the 4 words, 3 words? What a beast, man. Just, so good.
Almost a flawless season.
Almost. Okay, start there. What's your almost?
For a guy that is such a strong finisher around the rim, for a guy that goes to the rim so well, if he could just get his free throw percentage up to about 80, it would have been a perfect season.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't need to shoot the 3-ball high volume. 33% for that is completely fine. 1 of every 3 he's knocking down if it's open is good. But for what he did around the rim, what he did defensively, and what he did to teams in terms of drawing fouls, A+ MVP, lock it away, done, sorted, finished.
A+, bang. Guess what I went with? Also the A+. Just an unbelievable season, and I think some of the what were we really expecting plays into this. Like we were looking at this at the start of the season, kind of going, "Oh, 6'4", is this going to work? Like I don't know if this is going to work." And then once you see his footwork in and around the rim, that's where you just go, next level for NBL. That's next level stuff for in terms of NBL. Whether that'll work in the NBA, you're like, okay, I'd like to see him test that. I want to see him like I want to see him go to the NBA just to get a shot. Like I'm not gonna say he'd be great.
I think this is where potentially the NBA and how they pick American teams falls down, because he would work really good in an American team in a FIBA tournament.
Yes.
Because he plays FIBA ball better than he would play NBA ball. Whereas like Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum have no idea how to play the FIBA ball. No idea about spacing, no idea how to draw contact, no idea. It's a tighter game. Sometimes length doesn't suit it. And when you've got long spacing 1 through 5 and you've got that short 4, it could really work in that game. And we saw that this year because, you've got length at the 1, the 2, when, Bruce is on the floor, and then Tate, it opens up space in areas where they potentially wouldn't be. And I think it works really well. Would he ever make it big in the NBA? He needs to have the ball in his hand a lot. But he will be an MVP at some point in this league.
I think so. If he does end up staying, I hope he stays for another season, because in terms of his personal growth, I think just mauling a bunch of dudes who don't understand how, like, his level of inside game. Like, how many times did he just get dudes off the floor? Like, it's late in the season. You've played this guy 4 times. You just don't bite on his pump fake. And then Wagstaff would just be like jumping out of the building and just be like, thanks, bro. And you just be like, how many times have you played this guy and he's still biting on his pump fake, man? It's so good. And his footwork, like, that's where you see, like, you contrast that with a guy like Jordan Hunter, and you're just like, oh, you didn't grow up playing in the post, understanding how to, like, split your feet, how to make sure, like, your second step is just far enough away so a defender can't get to you. He obviously has a lot of meat in his hips, and he can just bump dudes out of the way. I think that's something the NBL hasn't really seen. Nick K is kind of a guy that I've seen do it a little bit this season and sort of last season, but I don't think the level JT can sort of get in the post, use just how much meat he has to just be like, you physically can't get to my shot because there's so much meat in the way. And I know you're there. I know you want to just stick your hand over the top, but you can't do it because there's just too much there. And the amount of times he draws those fouls like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, for the amount he can do under the post, round the rim, if you could just get his free throw percentage up to 80%, perfect season. Completely perfect season.
And just a phenomenon, man. I was just so impressed. And even if he did go to the NBA, I'd still just be like, dude, for sure. Like, go.
I want to watch it. I'd go watch it as well. Like, he'd be interesting to watch in that setup.
So just by the numbers, 768 minutes on the season, 460 points, so second behind Casper. He was at second main scorer. 180 field goals made from 272, 66.2% from the field.
Jesus, it's just absurd.
It's absolutely phenomenal. And then 162 made field goals on 224 attempts from inside the arc, so 72.3%. It's just unheard of, man. It really is unheard of in high volumes. 37.3% from 3. That's honestly not too bad, really, to round out the season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's pretty good because it's low volume. You don't need him to shoot a lot, but he'll knock it down when you need it.
So 19 of 51, and then 79 from 132 from the free throw line. 59.8%, you're right, but he gets there and shoots so many of them that kind of 79 extra points is quite good over the course of a season, even though he got 132 to pick from. 163 rebounds in total, 56 assists still is a great number for a guy who's mainly an inside scorer. 53 turnovers, though, is, kind of the way he plays.
Yeah.
How many times did you see him just pick up a broken ball, try to do something in the lane, and then someone just strip him because they're just flailing at him? And that happens. Like, you're just like, yeah, that happens. But how many times did you see him pick up a loose ball and then, like, turn, spin? Like, he's just putting a guy in a blender. Like, he put Dame Pinot down the end of the season in this blender, like inside, outside. And then, usually it's just like, oh, I've put like this guy's defended me so well that I have to like force myself to score through him, and that's the thing that where you go, what a play, he scored through him, even through all that he scored. But like he'd done that, and then Dane Pinot wasn't even anywhere near him. Then he was just like, all right, just lay this in, sweet. And you're just like, wow, what a just. I could just watch film of him all day, man, and just sit there. Like it'd be great content just sitting there, just talking about his season. And then 31 steals, defensively very good. 16 blocks, yeah. But only 10 blocks received, man.
Yeah, that's just nuts on 72% field goal inside
on 162 makes, 224 attempts, only 10 times he was blocked. Just that's some of these stats just blow my mind, man. Every time I look at him, 79 fouls, highest fouler in our team. That's just how he plays. 121 fouls on. And then plus minus of 116 plus 116, just phenomenal. Like I don't know. Do we need to keep going? Like keep gushing.
We can keep gushing, but let's hand out the award.
Let's move to the MVP, Kingsdime MVP. It was a tight race, sort of halfway through the season. It was quite tight, and then just one man blew it away at the end. It'll pop up very soon. Just building the suspense. It's coming. It's going to pop up. Come on. It's so late. So late in the piece. There it is. JT, 98 points in the 3-2-1 MVP. The man himself. Let's gush some more. What was his best game this season?
Oh, man. That was Adelaide overtime. Just, he won that game.
In overtime. He just went nuts, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was so good.
That's... But every game, just you look up as JT. Oh, it's 12 from 16 from the field. You're like, oh, he's got 22 points, and just phenomenal to watch. Phenomenal to watch live.
Yeah, just watching him bump dudes is like, wow.
Didn't have a bad game.
Did he have? I think he had sort of very early on. Like, how good's this? We have to go. What was his worst game of the season? What do we got here? 14. Like I'm going through them, man, and it's like 16. So all right, let's start. Taipans. 14 against the Taipans. 16 against Adelaide to start the season. 15 against New Zealand. 15 again against New Zealand. 10 against Brisbane. That's actually probably his worst game. He fouled out in that game. Did he foul out? No, he fouled out against someone really early on in the season. And then 16. 11 against Melbourne at Melbourne, 18 points. I think maybe he fouled out against Melbourne. No. Hawks, 24 against the Hawks, 24 against Melbourne Phoenix, 25 against Melbourne, 11 against Perth. Look at this, 12, 13. Like, so good, man. So good. And then also we should say, Casper Ware was the man who came runner-up. He had 75 points, and that'll pop up very soon. On this, I got to take these off, man. I can barely see with them on. Oh, it's beautiful. I can see again. But on the whole, this regular season, just sum it up as these last two things just pop up on the screen. Sum it up in your words.
Extremely entertaining. That's what it's a product. It's entertainment, and it has been that.
Has the appreciation level matched the level that the Kings have been at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's all record setting. The most wins, only team to lead from start to finish in the history of NBL. You have to appreciate that.
A 6'4" guy just munting the league.
Just, yeah. If you, in the scheme of things, you can understand why they put Pick Cotton as the winner of the MVP, but a 6'4" guy just taking the power forward position in all NBA first team, NBL first team.
NBA.
There's nothing that there's been like it, and there probably won't be anything like it in the future. Just what he's done, it's pretty phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I think the regular season was just so good that it's put me in a position now that I want us to win this finals.
Mm.
And it's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like,
Over expectation.
yeah, I want to be at a level where, like, I almost just I'm starting to feel like, don't just lose to Melbourne like that. To just be like, this is just whack, bro. Like, come on. But I really hope we get to that Perth game because I think that's going to be an absolute bumper of a series. Both teams, the best teams in the league, clearly. Bryce Cotton win the MVP. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I think 5 of those guys could have won it, and then all 5 of them, you were just like, yeah, okay, they won it, sweet.
Yeah, fair enough.
A little bit like last year too. Like last year was kind of like that. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been Bogue, it could have been Cotton, could have been Ware, could have been David Ware.
No. No.
But yeah, all in all, we're going into this final series with a lot of confidence. I will be bringing a video out on things we can do against Melbourne and things that Melbourne do that we need to look out for. A comprehensive wrap of that series. I'll try and have that out early next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll try and drop that, so stick around for that. This has been an absolute marathon, but a pleasure, man. I just love talking Kings. It's been an hour and a half.
Be good.
I think last year's one was like an hour and a half, and that was only a half season. So
Was it?
yeah,
Wow.
I think our last half season one was about an hour and a half. We did a lot more talking individual stuff. So, but I think there's about 3 or 4 guys on this team that you go, oh, I'm so happy for them. And then there's about 3 or 4 guys on this team who are like elite players, and I expect greatness, and they've brought greatness.
And they must continue to bring greatness.
Yes, good luck in the finals. I hope everyone goes to the game. Oh, shout out, we will be doing a live stream for the second game on the Monday against Melbourne. So make sure you come again and talk about and watch us talk about that. We'll be doing that. Probably start about 7:30 as the game starts. Come and say g'day. Matty's saying some stuff here. He got here late. He's been super impressed with Taylor. I think he's been good. I think he got better. There was a spot where I was like, dish gone. You know what I mean? But he's really come along. It's really good. He's going to be a really important sort of piece for this team. And yeah, anything else we need to add before we go and have a couple of beers? The after party after the awards night?
Sign out. Yeah,
sign it off. So remember to like, share, and subscribe. All the stuff is across the bottom over there. Facebook, and we are on Twitter. I forgot to tweet the link out so people can come along and watch that. These go up on YouTube as well. So if YouTube is your desired platform, go on there, give us a subscribe, give us a like, and share it around. And as always, we will see you guys next time
on the King's Dome.
All right, take it easy, everyone.
See ya.